Hello everyone, this is Ryan Greeby or Obsolete Zeo here with my Rivals of Ixalan set review miniature video where I go over my general thoughts of this set and what I think about it. I did a full set review going in depth on every card earlier, and it's about 2.5 hours, give or take, and a couple breaks in between, but very watchable. Hopefully I didn't repeat myself too much, and hopefully somebody somewhere somehow got something out of it, and hopefully it was enjoyable as well at different times. It's definitely tiring, and it gave me some appreciation for content producers that do this stuff. But hopefully this is a much shorter and more to the point video. So quickly, I want to say that this set is very unique in design because Wizards put out some pretty powerful, as we would traditionally call, cards. For constructed formats, we have 2-mana lords, which is very interesting at uncommon. And I didn't really go over this too much in my initial review, as I probably should have given it more time. But this is kind of unheard of lately to see tribe lords, but just at 2 mana and uncommon. I think the way that they opted to go with that is pretty cool. I was expecting something more, I don't know, like 3 mana, more traditional, rare, stuff like that, but they went the uncommon route, and I'm excited. I think it gives good payoff in limited, but more that I care about, it gives constructed purpose, and it gives very good options, and it allows credence to those actual tribes. So I guess my hope is that energy might be banned. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. But if it is, then this gives way for these tribes to be played, and I think in general, actually, they gave enough support, specifically to Merfolk, that allows the tribe to be played on a standard scale that hopefully is good. I want to put it in perspective. I want to see this set do well because I like tribes with Magic. It's one of the things that drew me to it initially. Obviously, I think a lot of people know that I love elves, but you know, I'm appreciating Merfolk here, and I never really liked Merfolk much, just as mono blue. But some of the cool green cards that they've added and some of the evergreen kind of effects that they give with those green cards make the tribe a lot more interesting and intriguing to me. And the counters matter stuff, and some of the interesting route that they've gone with unblockable kind of effects and things like that make it cool. And I hope it does well in standard. I think it's almost to the point where it's to be standard playable, but I just want to briefly say, when you make a standard set that is tribe oriented and your set gets taken, like Ixalan, to only have the absolute best cards from it, and you can't support the support of those tribes in standard, I think that's a problem, because you primarily design sets for standard use these days, for the most part. Obviously, limited is a huge factor, and that's a different topic that I wish didn't have to be a thing, but it is, and it's a truth of the matter. And obviously, they sometimes print cards with EDH or modern in mind, and they obviously have to balance the fact that they, even though they don't admit it, they still can't do something completely broken that completely changes legacy, like Death Art Shaman or Delver, and I think they've come to that realization, so they've done a reasonable job at not breaking those formats. But they do add cards time to time in modern that are very impactful and format defining, and change the gameplay up and change archetypes and everything. These Merfolk that are green, I think, add some depth and options to Merfolk in modern, and maybe change the deck to be blue-green with company. And the legendary Kumana, I think, is really good and really unique. Love the card. I think it's my favorite card in the set. not my favorite art or anything like that, or flavor or whatever, but just the actual mechanics of the card is just really cool. I think they really hit home with that. I love the 2-mana lords, and I'll get on to vampires here in a second. And I think that the 1/1 dudes, and I think the 2-mana drop that gives counters whenever more merfolk enter the battlefield, along with the 3/3 flash guy, and along with the 4-drop that draws cards, and along with Kumana Speaker from the original Ixalan and Merfolk Branchwalker, and you jam those together, and you have something really cool for standard. And you also have tempo spells that bounce things. You have draw effects. You have potential enchantments that you can play. There's the blue-green enchantment that gives counters, going along with the Merfolk Counters Matters theme, and flips over to give a thing flying and huge power. Interesting that there's not like a Kiora or something in this set. Not that Kiora specifically would be used, but like a Merfolk related Planeswalker I think would have been really cool. I think that should have happened. But besides that, Merfolk looks great. I hope it sees play in standard, and it adds something to modern, which is great. Hit home with that. For vampires, you get the 2-mana lord. You get a really shitty black mythic, and you get a really cool black-white legendary, which I can't remember the name of right now. I apologize. But the 4-mana 1/1 has lifelink, which lifelink matters with vampires with this set introduction, which didn't previously exist. For the most part. I mean, obviously you have things like Vampire Nighthawk and other things that have lifelink, but it was never a core tenet of vampires, mostly. And this set and this block has really pushed that. I think if you combine like cards like Legion's Landing and some of the cards from Ixalan and just other generally powerful cards from standard with these cards, like the 2-mana lord, the 4-drop, there is a 1-mana 2/1. There's a 2/2 that you can recast. There's things that is a 2-mana 3/3 that whenever you gain life, it untaps, and these kinds of things together. I don't know if it's inherently just as powerful as Merfolk. I think you have maybe some better spells, and I don't necessarily know if the support is there, but I think it could be doable. And I like the fact that they're trying and that it could be a thing. I hope it becomes a thing. And like I said, my entire goal with seeing a tribe-focused block is the hope that these tribes can be viable and be creative and unique and breathe life into these tribes that people enjoy them. So I think that should always be the goal, and especially for standard. Like, you know, these cards should hopefully see an impact in standard and be format defining archetypes. Hopefully, that's what I would expect. If the set is successful, I think that's your ultimate goal. Moving on to dinosaurs, I think there's some really cool support. I think the promo that you got from the preview thing, sorry, I'm drawing a blank for the actual name of it, because there's so much of that saturated Standard Showdown preview. I guess it's from Standard Showdown, yeah. Open house, like all that kind of stuff. It's just tough to keep my mind around it because I don't play Standard as much. But anyway, that big dude dinosaur is really cool, and I think is actually pretty playable. And I think Dinosaurs has the right support. It exists, and if it does exist, it will be in a mid-range strategy. The problem that Dinosaurs has going on is it's got this like pseudo ramp thing, pseudo enraged thing, and I don't think there's ever like really good options for either of them. But we did get a 2-mana rampant growth. Like we got rampant growth for Dinosaurs, so that's actually pretty good. And if you imagine 2 mana into Ripjaw Raptor on turn 3, into the 5-drop that makes 2 3/3s, or Regisaur Alpha, and then you go into Carnage Tyrant, or any of the other 6 drops, like you're doing pretty powerful things. There's not a Lord that got printed, which is interesting. And there's a lot of big fat dinos out there. It's cool that they added the elder dinosaurs. From a lore point of view and from flavor, they're one in each color, and I like the fact that there's blue and black, and I really wish that they could have done more in those colors. I don't know why they didn't. I guess just from a balance and pure card amount kind of point of view, they could only do so much. I would have loved to see more black dinosaurs and more blue plain dinosaurs. Like, would have been really cool. But as is, I think dinosaurs are hopefully going to be in a fine place. We'll see. But I think the tools are there to make it happen. There's some mana reduction, some ramp stuff going on. I think what's going to happen is that's going to be favored over the enraged stuff. And the problem is there's some pushed mythics like the white 5-drop 5/5 that is completely reliant on enrage. And that's like a very powerful effect. The question is, like, how can you reliably do that? And I don't think they gave enough options for good enrage tools. But I think the ramp is there, and I think the powerful cards at each point of the curve are there, so it could be a thing too. So don't pass up on your Carnage Tyrants and your Regisaur Alphas and your Ripjaw Raptors. If you can get them now for pretty cheap, they might go up. Who knows? And Pirates. There's a couple cool cards. Like I said in my original review with a couple of the cards that I was talking about, there's nothing like, I mean, there's humans with the pirate subtype, and there's some orcs and stuff, but like, what really are pirates that get you like super excited about pirates? I don't know if they did a good enough job with pirates, and I feel like they, because of like the exploration part and the, you know, the arg, we're pirate, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was done justice, and it feels more like a conglomeration of medium effects that don't gel well together. And they did this like artifact matters thing with treasures, which makes sense from a flavor perspective, but from gameplay, there's just not enough payoff for like synergy there that really matters for a standard constructed kind of thing. Like in a fun casual kind of knock around kitchen format kind of thing, I think it works, but in general I think that's a miss. So pirates for me are not the best there. So for the two archetypes that they introduced for tribes, I think dinosaurs was done really well. I think they definitely did a great job there. And I think Pirates was done pretty poorly, personally. That's what I think. I think from actual limited, I think Pirates are fine. But for constructed, I'm not as sold. Others may disagree, though. In terms of limited, I've talked about my design philosophy in that review on it's a problem that there's a dichotomy between limited design and standard design, and they keep pushing out these chafe cards over and over and over again that are specifically for limited, and they're not innovating at all, and they're very stale and they're very generic. And then you have the problem of trying to balance with standard and not giving them enough good options. So one of the things that I liked with this set was the uncommon lords and the pirate that's a 1-mana 2/2 and things like this. I don't think there was enough good removal in this, but there was some good options in just from an all-around card pool. I think the power level is there. I think there was clearly some cards that were designed for EDH and a lot of cards that were designed for limited, and not too much crossover there where you know, you have a card that's flexible in multiple formats. But I think the power level was overall pretty good, and I think that I'd say overall the set is good. I don't think that the set's going to be much from a monetary point of view. Personally, I think there's a lot of missed mythics. I think the ascend mechanic is horrible. I think the raid mechanic is horrible. And especially the Ascend mechanic. Like, there's a couple cool cards that you can use for EDH, but the fact that they're putting like standard cards and limited cards with the Ascend mechanic, it's just kind of, it's lazy and I don't like it. It's arbitrary. I get the flavor point of view of like finding the treasure and getting the bounty and shit. Like, okay, like I get that, but it should have been done more meaningful, I think. And there's a lot of crappy cards from the first perspective without Ascend. But then when you give them Ascend, they don't even get marginally that much better. And I talked about that in my full review. So that's a problem to me. And I think the mechanics were not as good here. I think treasures are fine from a limited point of view, but they don't add too much for constructed reasons. And so the mechanics for this set were not that great. I think the lore, I think the flavor of this set is awesome. I think the art is gorgeous. And it's exotic and it's lush and it very unique, very different than what we've had recently, and I like that. And they introduced some new shit too, which is awesome. There's a lot of positives from this set, a lot of positives from this block, but some negatives too. But hopefully, and we'll talk about really quick a possible ban for Temur Energy. I think it's possible that we'll see Attune with Aether and maybe Aether Hub and maybe some Whirler Virtuoso or Rogue Refiner bans as well. If any of those cards get banned, or if multiple of them get banned, I am very curious and very interested in what Standard will become, and excited. I think there are going to be a lot of options and a lot of good exploration there, and a lot of good brewing, and a lot of good creativity that can come from that. And I hope that will happen because I think that'll be refreshing, and people need that right now, and people need this set to be good and to be fun, and it's meant to be fun, you know. And if it doesn't happen, I'm worried that there's a lot of stale and a lot of stagnation and a lot of sadness and a lot of unhappiness. And ultimately, if we're going to be playing Magic and regularly playing Magic and just wanting to have a good time, that's not the goal. And I hope that Wizards can remedy some stuff there and admit that, you know, there's a little bit of an issue with energy. And they didn't address it with this set mechanically. They didn't have any hosers or anything that you could theoretically print to prevent the oppressiveness of energy. And it's interesting that they've talked about energy as well with Kaladesh and how that could be a thing. Like, I remember them talking about this from a gameplay point of view and from a lore and flavor point of view, that energy was something intrinsic to Kaladesh and that it was a very big core tenet of Kaladesh as a plane, but it could exist in the rest of the multiverse and we could see it in future sets down the line. And that's kind of interesting too to think about, and they've never really touched on that since, and I'm curious if that's the same stance going forward into the future years. But anyway, without getting too ranty, we're going to wrap this up, and I personally think that this set's really cool. Hit home on flavor, hit home on art, hit home on lore from what I can think, hit home on limited. I think this will be a better limited format than just purely Ixalan, because now a lot of mechanics gel well together, a lot of the tribes mesh well together and are a lot easily pickable, I think, for draft, and a lot of sealed decks become more playable because of the addition of the set, and these tribes in the new cards I think are great. So limited, I think, is a home run. I hope standard is a home run. And there's some cool cards for some other formats. Some little bits and pieces and a lot of cool shit for EDH. So overall, pretty good set. The one issue with this set is monetarily. Now it is a small set, and we will be yet to see if it's going to be open to much or how that will play out in the super long term. But financially, there are not many Chase Mythics, at least from what I can see. There are a couple, But I'm not sure where the value is coming from this set. I think there's gonna be I think what's gonna happen with this set is there's gonna be a few cards that are gonna be kind of expensive potentially, and there's gonna be a lot of really worthless cards. We'll see. I could be wrong. I don't see too much chase stuff going around, and I didn't look at like Star City pre-orders or like what's going on with TCG or any of that. I'll admit that I haven't seen how that's panning out right now, but I imagine that a lot of prices will come down pretty quickly, and the value of the set will not be super high. But that could change long term, and there's a lot of like super casual, great uncommons, great cards for EDH, a lot of potential sweet foils, and the flippy floppy cards. You know what I'm talking about? Like these kinds of things make a set long term a lot cooler and a lot more intriguing from a value point of view. But anyway, to wrap up, I like this set. I hope it does well, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. We have some $20 pre-releases coming up for CM Games locations, which is just mind-blowing to me, with all the same price structure. That's fucking crazy. Hope you guys enjoy. Hope you get some cool gameplay out of this set. Hopefully Standard becomes refreshing, and hopefully there's some new players that have this set as their first. So I'm going to end on that note, and thanks for watching. For anybody who did watch, any feedback is appreciative. I'm doing this for the first time, and just it gives me a gratefulness for regular content creators out there, and an appreciation. And if you are still listening to me right now, that means you had something to appreciate about what I said. So if you could let me know, that would be great, and hope you guys have a good one. So see you guys later.